What's good, everybody? It's man Big Dom coming live at you with our second episode of the Night Doubleheader True Players Podcast episode, the episode that everyone has been waiting for. As I got Matthew from Jacobin Sports Show, Knicks Believe Pod, and the Strict.land joining with me to talk about the big Karl Anthony-Towns trade. I'm about to say Cat Williams.
Some people would rather see Cat Williams than Cat.
Exactly. As a base hit, baby, base hit. Me and Matt are avid Mets fans, guys. So if we get distracted and we look at see us turn our heads, we'll also watch the Met playoff game right now as well. So we may be giving you some insight on that game right now, as the Mets just took a 2-1 lead from a single for Francisco Alvarez. But we're here to talk about Karl Anthony-Towns, a big trade to the New York Knicks. We see Julius Randle get traded away, Donte DiVicenzo, and Kate Jop, or something like that.
Kate Sanya Diop. So they ended up. So the Knicks, it cost them. The rest of the deal came in today with Charlotte, because they needed. Charlotte had to facilitate it because with the new cap rules, the Knicks couldn't take on this money without certain jumping through hoops. So it ended up being Randle and DiVicenzo, and they also traded and they did something very interesting with Dwayne Washington Jr., Daquan Jeffries, and Charlie Brown Jr. The Knicks traded the three of them to Charlotte in a move that, and Minnesota also sent second round, and the Knicks also sent 2 seconds to Charlotte. Minnesota sent them to Charlotte, and the Knicks got back. So two things that were interesting about that. The Knicks got back also in the deal a young big man who was in the draft 2 years ago. His name was James Nagy. I believe it's James Nagy. He was considered the best athlete in the draft. He's a 7-footer, very, very similar to Mitch, like young Mitch, like crazy hops. Doesn't shoot like as a roll man, as a dunker, as a rim protector. If you look up Nagy highlights, like he is clearly like a young kind of Mitch, and was very highly regarded by a lot of people as a project. He's totally raw. But if you remember, Mitch is a rookie. Mitch was raw too, and you saw what they developed. The other interesting thing in the deal that apparently the NBA now is pissed off about, but there's nothing they can do about it. The Knicks, you don't have to look back far to remember when the Knicks were like not the best front office in sports. And right now the NBA has been very annoyed because it turns out, if you remember the new CBA, one of the rules was you can't put together minimum contracts. Like they don't let you do that anymore. You can't just stack a bunch of minimums. So the Knicks literally paid Jeffries, Washington, and who was the third? And Charlie Brown $1 over the minimum. So they could make the deal because now they're not minimum, and the league is not happy. But you know what? Nothing you can do. And when the Spurs do this, or the Heat, or any team does this, they're so clever. They're so guess what? Now the Knicks are the smart kid in class, and because of that, Karl Anthony-Towns is a Knick.
Gotcha.
So tell me your initial, because I had, my initial reaction, and I've done a lot of reading and writing and thinking about it, and I still feel, a certain way, but I'm curious where you stand, like your initial reaction, and do you feel any differently now than you did when you first heard about the deal?
My initial reaction was I was not a big fan of the trade. Mind you, I'm not a big fan of Julius Randle as a player. I mean, he's a good player, but the intangibles for me was what made me sour on Julius Randle. One reason why I say I didn't agree with the trade is because he didn't get a chance to play with this team. I would love to see how Julius Randle played with this team the way it is right now, fully constructed. Okay?
Yes. I think a lot of people, especially the way they looked last year before he got hurt, when they were 12-2 and they were running over the league, and then especially after they got Bridges, I was very, very, very excited about. I want to see what this man, especially the lineups where you play him at center. I mean that offense. So I think, I feel the same way there as you did.
I felt it was an opportunity. Let's see what the team looks like up to a trade deadline, and then make the deal. Another part of it is that we have to part with DiVicenzo.
Yeah.
As you hear rumors after the trade was made that he wasn't happy with his role, this, that, and the other. I was going back and forth on that because I honestly didn't believe that because he's playing with his teammates from college. That was supposed to be a dream to play together. So why would he be upset at a reduced role?
Here's the only reason I can think. Like, we don't know but from the outside, I wondered about this last year. I didn't think it would happen this quickly, but I wonder about it. So Brunson right now, they all went to college together. And they're tight. They're all tight guys. And Brunson is now at a point where he can take $40 million a year, $35 million a year, and he's celebrated as being a hero because we know he could get more than that. Like, we know he could get 50. So he could make 35 and still be like loved for taking 35. Okay. Bridges is up in 2 years for a new deal. They're gonna, unless something really weird happens, they're gonna re-sign him. He's gonna make, I'm guessing 30. Not maybe not OG money, but like 30 something, probably close, like to that. And Hart re-signed a year ago for about $20 million a year. His total ends up being about $20 million. So when fans and front offices and media talk about DiVicenzo, one of the things I've heard a lot this week, he's considered like the best contract in the NBA. Like, he makes about $12 million a year, and for what you get from that guy, we saw it with the Knicks. I loved him going back to when he played with Milwaukee. I was very excited when he went to go. I like him a lot as a player. And at $12 million a year, he is a complete bargain. But how does he feel? New York got high taxes. I know it's a lot of money, but still, how does he feel knowing, okay, my one boy makes triple what I do, and could make quadruple. My other guy is about to make triple. Hart, who's not, I like Hart. I love Hart. Hart's not Brunson. Hart's not even, I would say, quite Bridges level. No. And Hart makes almost double what DiVicenzo does. Is it possible at some point? Yeah, I'm happy. But it's easy for everyone to be like, hey, this is so fun when everyone else is making more money than I am.
Right.
That's the one thing that I wondered, like, we on the outside are, they're college friends. But you got friends from back in the day. If you and me and Joey and Ricky Brown all got hired at ESPN, and we're making double, triple what you are, it's easy to be like, hey, Dom, isn't it great? Aren't we lucky?
Yeah.
You might be like, well, you're a little more lucky than I am.
Yeah.
So I also feel the same way you did. I really loved DiVicenzo. And I wondered, like, would the Knicks, I did not think it would happen this soon, but this summer I was thinking a lot, like, it's Brunson's team. Would the Knicks ever trade Hart or DiVicenzo or Bridges if they thought it would make them better? Because this is his boy, like, going back in there. Well, the answer is yes. And you have got to assume there is no way this deal gets made without Brunson's approval. Right. I don't think it's his idea, but, like, I'm sure they went to him and to Thibodeau to make sure, are we good with this? So that tells you again, like, I take it as he really wants to win. Like, he really wants to win. I don't like losing DiVicenzo. The one reason that I'm okay with it, and it's the same thing I felt last year about Quickly, and I wrote about it in a piece about it actually literally a year ago, that it was pretty clear Quickly to me was going to have to go. And the only reason I was okay with it, because I loved Quick, was I've always been very Team Miles McBride. Like, I felt if he gets that opportunity, you're going to see, like, and I didn't know he would shoot the way he did. I didn't see that coming, but, like, I was very confident about Deuce. And I feel this year too, like, I think a lot of people I've read have suggested, like, the starting lineup will be Towns, OG, Bridges, Hart, and Brunson. I would start McBride ahead of Hart. I think he's a better shooter. I think he showed last year he played very well alongside Brunson. That was a Devo thing. I don't know how I felt very differently about Randle than you. I've always been a very, very big Randle fan. I understand. So here's what I wanted to see. Like, when I first heard about the trade, I was very unhappy. Like, very, very, very unhappy. Randle's my guy, and it's for a lot of reasons. I don't know that Randle is good enough to be the co-star on a champion. He might not be. I believe personally that his playoff struggles have been overrated, and that if you step back and look at, like, okay, he's been to like 2 playoffs. The first one, they were all out. They were all a disaster in that Atlanta series. They were not ready for that series. They were a nice regular season team that had only one guy who could create 1.5, him and Derrick Rose. And the Hawks centered on that, and nobody could shoot. And it looks ugly when that happens. And 2 years ago, if you remember, he hurt his ankle at the end of the year. He rushed back early for the playoffs. He's immediately matched up against Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. And then he hurts his ankle at the end of that series again, comes back against Miami, and now he's being guarded by Bam Adebayo, who's one of the best. So to me, it's not like Julius Randle has – I felt like maybe he could be good. But I totally understand the argument of people who are like, I don't think he has what it takes to be the second best. But I felt like – and I always felt like this as a kid too. Like the 90s Knicks had they were limited. Like they were really good, but like they had limits. And but they were my guys. Like if I'm going to lose, I'm not trading John Starks for Michael Jordan. I want to win or lose with my guys. Randle is my guy. He's been here 5 years. He's been here other than Mitch. He was here longer than anybody else. He came when he came track. David Fizdale was the coach. Like he came for a rut, and this is rare in New York, especially now, to have a guy last 5 years, and after his first year, they're ready to trade him. After his second year in that playoff against Atlanta, people were down on him. They wanted Obi to take over. His third year was not good. Everybody then wanted him out. And he became a fan favorite after that. He became a guy that like the fan base really rallied around and embraced despite his obvious flaws. So to me, I'm like, I got that. And I got Karl Anthony-Towns, who like more talented, better shooter, bigger. And I wrote about this. I think that the reason this trade happened is because Mitch got hurt. Because with Mitch injured, Tom Thibodeau is not going to play 2 months with Randle and Achua at center. Like he's just not, and he might be right. Like because Randle coming off a separated shoulder, and the first thing you want to do is say, okay, you start playing the 5. Anunoby, you're always hurt. We're moving you out now to 4 more, but maybe you don't want to do that. But I still feel like Towns can. I can see the argument for why Towns is a better player. And I also see the argument that because of the new cap stuff, if the Knicks wait a year, Randle in a year had the option to either pick up the last 1 year option or go into free agency. And the way the cap stuff is set up, if the Knicks got to next summer and Randle opted out and they don't re-sign him, they can't take his money and put it to a new player. They would be just out that slot. So I also see the argument that like I got to make a move now, because a year from now I might not be able to. And given that they still hadn't come together on a deal and they've had a while to do it, I think they felt like, all right, better to do something now, even if we don't know if Towns is better. And I think they like Towns. But better to do something now than not be able to do anything in a year.
Gotcha. Towns has to prove to me he could be what he was in Minnesota and more in New York. He's coming back home.
Yes, he's a Knicks fan from Jersey.
You know, he's coming back home, and there's going to be a lot of pressure for him to come back home and still produce the way he was producing in Minnesota. Now, does he bring more? Does he bring more better defense than Julius Randle? Yes, he does. He can block shots, and rebounding is equal, somewhat equal. The assist, I give it to Randle. I believe Randle, like I told you before, Matt, is a poor man's version of Derek Coleman. If they play to the full talent, the full gamut of talent that those two guys have is similar. Both lefty, could shoot the 3, got handles, and can pass and rebound.
Yeah. Towns can pass. Towns is not a bad passer. He's for a 7-footer, he can pass.
But what Towns brings, which I agree with you, Towns brings an area to the Knicks, now expands the floor. You give Brunson room to operate. You give Bridges room to operate. The key players that's gonna score for you have more room to operate.
If you remember when Anunoby first came over, one of the immediate things that was striking about him versus Barrett was OG in a month had more dunks off of cuts than RJ would get like in a year. Like OG is a really good off-ball cutter, and with Towns, like you're saying, with the spacing that you're going to have, OG's going to get cuts. If you saw the Liberty game last night and you saw how far out Sabrina Ionescu shoots from, the Knicks now can run pick and roll Brunson and Towns out by the logo, and the defense has to guard it. That's going to open up. So that could open up a lot of things.
Absolutely. Now, Because of the trade, the Knicks had to cut Chumi Okeke, and Marcus Morris Sr. I want to touch on this. See, the problem with Marcus Morris Sr. Very good player, good rebounder, good offensive player.
Mm-hmm.
He played the little petty card now against the Knicks, where if you really wanted to, you got Karl Anthony-Towns. Mitch is out till December. Marcus Morris Sr., in my opinion, could have been starting power forward with OG, Brunson, and Bridges.
Just want to update you. I did not know this. I seen something about this right before you said it. They did let Okeke and Morris go. They also today signed. They re-signed. Okay, so Okeke's back.
Mm-hmm.
They signed 4 people today to Exhibit 10 contracts, which are like basically non-guaranteed, like training camp deals. Okeke, TJ Warren, who's a very good scorer for many years, and then Damian Ball and Alex O'Connell. Ball was in the Lakers system last year. He's out of Memphis. O'Connell played at Duke, played at Creighton, played overseas. Then he played for Sacramento's team. So they brought back Okeke, but you're right. Morris is definitely still gone.
Mm-hmm. The Knicks tried to resign him. He declined to sign with them because of that situation. The move they had to do to get Cat. This is the problem I have with NBA players.
What's that?
Why are you going to do this? Why are you going to be petty? Knowing that they're going to re-sign you, right? They're going to re-sign you. You're playing on a championship team. Possibly you go from a guy fighting for playing time for now fighting for the starting 4 position. Your thoughts?
I don't think Morris would have started. I think he wasn't a starter last year for the Clippers. He does not at this point defend enough the way that Thibodeau would demand of a Thibodeau starter is going to play 30-something. I don't think Morris was going to do that. I love Morris. I loved him the year that he was here. I thought he could be a very interesting piece if the roster went in a certain direction, particularly as a backup kind of 4. I would say with this front office, first of all, I would remind everyone that Marcus Morris became a Knick in the first place in part because he pissed off another team. He had a deal with the Spurs, and he had a handshake agreement. And the Knicks, it was a 2-year deal, and the Knicks, I remember it was like 2 years, I think $15 million, and then the Knicks offered him like 1 year at 10 or 12. And he had already handshook with Popovich and the Spurs, and then he turned his back on them. So I can't complain now if Marcus Morris is, beef. I can't complain about Marcus Morris maybe being flaky because that's maybe who he's been since they've known him. It's interesting now to look at a lot of these free agents that they brought into these Exhibit 10 deals because some of the moves didn't make that much sense before the trade. Like when they brought in Campaign, I remember a lot of people were like, well, you got Brunson, you got DiVicenzo, you got McBride, you got Kolek, who you drafted. Like, why you need Campaign? Like you're so deep. Like, why would you? And it's very interesting how much in one trade, depth is not their strength anymore. Like
exactly.
They got real nice top end talent. I think I wanted to point this out I still am. I'm not sure about Towns. Like I think the odds are against him probably being what you would hope. But one interesting parallel with Towns and someone else. We all know like sometimes a guy he starts with one team and he's supposed to be the hero. And it doesn't quite work out, and the fan base gets down on him, and he goes somewhere else, and that fan base takes him for who he is. And say you date someone who like you just can't win with. No matter what you do, this person dogs you, and you get used to it. You start to feel bad about yourself, and then you date someone else who actually like respects you, and you like blossom because all they're doing is seeing what you're good at. They're not. Porzingis was like this a lot. Porzingis came to the Knicks, couldn't stay healthy. There was beef with the front office. Like it didn't ultimately work out the way anybody hoped. Same thing in Dallas. He was going to be the the Kareem to Luka's Magic didn't quite work out. He had to leave those two very prominent teams and positions and roles, went to Washington. Nobody thought twice about him. Nobody cared. He got his game back. He got his voodoo back. Now he's in Boston. Nobody in Boston thinks, is Kristaps Porzingis worthy of being the fourth pick in the? All they care about is what he does for them, and what he did for them was last year help them win a title. I think to some degree in Minnesota, because Towns was there now almost a decade. It was somewhat easy to be like, well, you know, we only last year was the 1 year we advanced, and really it's Anthony Edwards' team anyway, and like now Cat's making money, and all you're seeing is like what he hasn't done or what he doesn't do. And he comes down to the Knicks. We're like, okay, this isn't. We need you to be the savior. They got Brunson. All you have to do, like the same thing as KP in Boston. All Towns has to do is come here and do what he does: make threes, rebound, 7 feet. That's all he has to do. And you mentioned about rebounding. Before Gobert came to Minnesota, Towns rebounding was, and I love Randle, but like Towns rebounding was a level above. Towns was 11, 12 rebounds. His rebound percentage was much higher than Randle. Like he's a beast on the glass if you play him at 5. When you play it before, obviously he lost opportunity, but you know, he's a real interesting dude. To me, the fact that he's from there concerns me more. We've seen Marbury, and Marbury was not a guy who people were like, oh, he's a goofball. Like, oh, Steph's coming in. Oh, we got Starbury. So with Bobby with Nia, I mean, I don't know how far back we want to go, but like, it's not easy to come home and be, and that concerns me a little bit with him. I worry that he's goofy. I worry that he's a goofball. But again, they don't need him to be the hero. Maybe that's fine, you know?
Sure.
Maybe that's fine.
So my question to you is, Matt, avid follow up the New York Knicks. You do articles on them and all that fun stuff. As we're watching Mania, 3-1 lead, bottom of third with a man on first. All right. Does this open up for the Knicks to sign somebody else? Do they have enough money to sign somebody else? Let's just say, I don't know if Kyle Kuzma is still available. I'm not even sure if Obi Toppin is still available as free agents. Is that something that they would kick the tire on? Because they did lose some firepower off the bench with the trade of DiVicenzo.
I don't think that Toppin is an option for them. I don't think Indiana would be looking to move him. And also, even if they were, and even if the Knicks were, even if Toppin were available, I think the issues that Thibodeau had a couple of years ago with Toppin, he's still going to have now. Like, if you're going to play Obi, you cannot play him at center. So if you're going to play Obi at 4, you've got to play him with either Towns at 5 or maybe later in the season Mitch. I think they let Toppin go because nice player, but he doesn't fit what they want as a player. And as far as Kuzma makes too much. The Knicks they're capped at that second apron now, so they cannot make any trade where they take in any more money than they give out. So that's why they had to do all these jumping through hoops. Towns makes a lot more than Randle. They had to do all this funky stuff, and they did it in the Bridges trade too. If you remember, the deal was done. It took another few days because the Knicks had to do all these kind of pyrotechnics to make the numbers work. I don't see the Knicks. The next big move you would see, I think, from the Knicks, possibly, depending on how the season goes, after December 15th, they can trade Achua. If during the season you get to a point where, let's say, you have found maybe Sims takes a step forward, he's a decent backup 5. If you put Mitch and Achua in a deal together, you could bring back then. Let's say Mitch, I don't know, he's hurt. Let's just say Mitch is hurt. You could trade Mitch and Achua for like Clint Capella. And if you need later in the season a legit body 5 who's going to get rebounds and he's going to block shots, and he's going to give you a different style than Towns, and maybe you play him sometimes next to Towns because Towns played with Gobert. Like, that's the kind of move I think you might see them make, particularly if Mitch is injured a while or if he gets re-injured. But they really can't sign anyone at this point. They can't sign anyone. They would have to get rid of someone that they have to do that.
Okay. Fair enough. Because as I'm thinking about this trade, as the trade was going through, and I was thinking about the podcast, this pending podcast, before I reached out to you, like we gotta do a pod about this.
Yeah, this is a hot one.
I was like, is Mitchell-Robinson next one to go?
There was a lot of speculation about that. I think, particularly because he's injured, I don't think he's going anywhere right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they can get someone better than him for the same money. There's been a lot of talk about Walker Kessler, who apparently Utah may be once again looking to move. Kessler makes a lot less money does. So again, that would be tricky. The Knicks can't take or give back. Like, it has to be exact. So the initial talk was like, okay, Mitch has to go because nobody could figure out how they were going to. There was almost $9 million in money that wasn't adding up until they did what they did with the three players. Now I think if they have it the way they would ideally like it, they do a year with Mitch, and because you want the flexibility. Let's say you play Philly in the playoffs, you want to be able to, like, all right, sometimes I want Mitch guarding Embiid. Sometimes I want Towns guarding Embiid, and I want Mitch coming over to double. Sometimes if Philly wants to go small, and let's say they play Embiid 5 and Paul George 4, maybe we play Mitch and Towns 4, and we got Towns backing down. But like, I think Mitch, because you've seen Towns can have success with a player like Gobert, I think Thibodeau likes having Mitch is far and away their second best center. So I think Thibodeau likes the optionality that it gives him. I think that if you really want to compete through 4 rounds of the playoffs, you have to have counters as much as possible. And I think having Mitch and Towns both lets you match up really well with a lot of different people. You play in Indiana, and Indiana's going to have Miles Turner out there. Mitch doesn't like defending 25 feet from the basket. Towns won't mind as much. But then the next round, you're playing Cleveland, and they got Jared Allen, and they got Mobley. Okay, now you want size. Now you got Mitch. So my suspicion is, unless it's always possible someone will be available in 3 months that's not available right now. And that could change like how things work, but it would be very difficult for the Knicks to make a lot of moves because they're capped against that second apron.
Got you. All right. As it's getting a little tight right now. The bottom of the third inning, Mania has first and third. The Brewers are trying to make a comeback here. Mania has to make a big pitch here, big out, get a big double play, and call it a day. This guy hit a home run to start the game. He has to be careful with the pitching. The one thing I don't understand about Sean Mania, he throws a high sinker, which I'm not comfortable with the pitcher that throws that high sinker. The way his arm angle, the way he throws that ball, I don't like the way that comes out of his hand.
It's a tightrope. You got to be real if you're going to do that.
There you go.
But I've seen more of it. I was watching. There was a game the Mets played this year in Seattle, and Luis Castillo dominated. It was a national game. He absolutely dominated them. And it has literally been 30, 40 years since I had seen a pitcher throwing up in the strike zone. He was throwing up in the strike zone all day. And I've noticed the last couple of weeks watching a lot of games, like, and Mania from the start, you could see even in the first inning when he got in trouble, there were a couple of pitches that he thought he struck the guy out high, like top of the zone strikes. He likes to throw up there.
Yeah, he does.
And he's made it work this year.
Yeah, I like the turnaround he did in the season.
Yeah,
to straighten himself out. Him and Quintana really came on strong at the end of the season. Really come out and pitch very strong at the end, which I want to see.
Yeah.
We popped up. Let's close out this inning. Top of the fourth, the guys. Good job, guys. One thing I want to say before we go back to Knicks.
Yeah.
About we're both used to be catchers.
Right.
Somebody's really talk to Francisco Alvarez and teach him how to crouch.
That's another thing today that's very different. Like, if you remember, Tony Pena back in the day was the only catcher who didn't squat. He did that thing off of like one leg, and it was very comfortable. As long as you didn't take a foul ball to the wrong spot. Like, it was very comfortable. And I see a lot more catchers than ever. It's obviously taught, and it's obviously embraced by the teams, or they wouldn't do it. But I see a lot of catchers right now, like Alvarez. And Alvarez squats even more than – there's just some dudes that they're down on one leg. It worries me with him only because he's so important to their lineup. and he takes so many shots. Like, yes, he took one off the hand. Like,
Mhm.
you're gonna take so many shots to begin with. Don't open yourself up to like unnecessary. But it's a different world now because they all do it.
Granted, I totally agree with you. I remember when I was catching. I'm paying for it now by crouching so much
Yeah.
with my knees. I'm paying for it right now.
Mm.
But I never had the sense, even though I was a good glove in the backstop. I was a good glove. I never felt comfortable being like the one leg crash or all that stuff because my most important thing for me is to block that ball.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like getting ball. I don't like balls getting past me.
Mm-hmm.
And when you deal with a pitcher who throws in the dirt, you got Edwin Diaz, you got Manaya, you got Severino who throws in the dirt a lot. That heavy sinker and the slider. You got to be able to block that ball.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very big proponent of that.
Whatever he's doing is working.
Yeah,
I gotta say that. Like, he's not just hitting. I mean, he came up and everyone knew he was a bat, and he's been pretty remarkable with the way he calls the game, throwing out runners. Like I love Alvarez, man. He might be my favorite Met.
No, he is a very he can throw runners out. He frames the ball very well. I think he has the best framing rate in the Major League Baseball.
Yeah, he's up there. Yeah, he's up there.
So
and he handles the pitching staffs. They seem to like working with him. You see a lot of different pitchers have success with him. That's pretty nice.
Definitely. So now, Matt, my question to you is with the trade of Cat preseason. Well, it's starting in the NBA.
Yes.
I wanted to say this for another episode, but since we got some time,
yeah,
I want to touch upon it. Is this Knicks team currently constructed a 60-win team?
If they are healthy, yes. I have more of a concern about that with them. There's always the general if they're healthy, but I think one thing that concerns me, and it would have applied to Randle or Towns. Towns is weird in that his first 4 or 5 years he didn't miss a game, and the last 4 or 5 years he's missed like a third of them. So he was total Iron Man, and now has not been. I think they can win 60 games if they're healthy, specifically because I think there's going to be some wins on the table that wouldn't normally be, because Boston
safe
is not going to have Porzingis for a few months. I think they're still going to be good, but I don't think they're going to win 60-something games missing him for a few months. And I think the Knicks, just by virtue of their talent and continuity, and this is a year that, so you want to talk let's be real about Vegas and gambling and over-unders and everything. This is the year that a lot of teams are tanking for top 5 because there's literally 5 or 6 guys in the draft who are each considered, this is the number 1 player in any normal draft. There's 5 or 6 of them. So there's a number of teams this year that have no interest in winning. Because even if you have the worst record and you drop, the Pistons every year, they have the worst record. They pick 4th or 5th. That's not so much of a problem this year. If you're guaranteed a top 5 pick, which you can only get by having the worst record, you're guaranteed to get a franchise player in this draft. So a lot of teams are not going to try to win. I think the Celtics might have a slight less of a... I think the Knicks can win 60 games. But my concern with the Knicks is the number of guys... They played a long, difficult postseason last year. Heavy minutes on guys at the highest level of competition. And now you don't have a lot of depth. Mitch is already out. I'm concerned, if OG misses 20 games, are you going to win 60? If Brunson has some ankle stuff because of everything he did last year, that might keep you from winning 60. If Mitch is out a month longer than you think, I think it's tough, but I definitely think this team healthy, they could win 60.
I think the health of the team is all on the coach and how much he plays them. If a game is out of hand, does he have the quick trigger to pull him out? Even though you lost some depth, you still have a deep team, especially in the lead guard position. You got Campaign, you got McBride who could be a lead guard, and you got Kolek. I'm anxious to see how Kolek is going to play. I want to see him in a regular season game. He did very well in the summer league. I want to see how he operates in his offense. If he operates the way I expect him to operate, he's going to be the biggest steal in the draft in probably in NBA history.
It will be very interesting if Kolek can beat out Payne on the depth chart, because although Thibodeau, traditionally, like a lot of coaches, is not crazy to play rookies, quickly forced his way in. Like, quickly, there was no stopping him. Quickly's playing. As soon as Quentin Grimes started showing something, he was playing. And Thibodeau started him his second year, which also was something you don't think Thibodeau's going to do. So I think if Kolek can outplay Payne in camp and get that spot, that could be like a very interesting because Kolek really does seem to be like more of a, you plug this guy in now and he's ready to roll with this team. More so than a lot of rookies who, like, they might have higher ceilings but they're not there yet. Like Scoot Henderson has a higher ceiling than Tyler Kolek. But Scoot Henderson came in and struggled as a rookie because there were just certain fundamentals that he wasn't performing. That you might have incredible power, but if you don't keep your eye on the ball, or you don't know how to get the power in your lower body as you're waiting for the ball, it doesn't matter how much power you have, you're not going to make contact. Right. So it's great that some of these guys have the ability that they have, but like Kolek seems to me like all the talk has been, they really like him, and he's got a shot to at least be like bottom of the rotation. It'll be a very interesting team this year.
Very interesting, and I'm kind of the Frenchman that they drafted, Patier. I'm another guy.
Patier, yes, who talks very big. Has already surprised a little bit because everyone seemed to think like this is a drafted stash, and he said on draft night, like, I'm not coming to come back, like I'm coming to make the team, and we got to see him, obviously in an NBA preseason, but everything that has been heard about him to this extent, it's only been a little while, but everything you've heard is like what you'd want to hear, like talent, upside, certainly there's the drive, like there doesn't seem to be a question about does he want it, he does. And they have done a really nice job under this front office developing young players. A really nice job. So I don't think you will see Dottier more than a dozen games this year, but he might be a guy that in 2 years, like, we're all surprised by where he is.
Big guy, big guard, could play the 2 and the 3.
Yeah, he's got really good size, like a long 6'8". Very, very nice jumper. Got to build up his body. But like one reason the Knicks have been able the last year to continue to improve, even though they've gotten rid of Quickly, who then signed an enormous deal with Toronto, and traded DiVicenzo on this incredible contract, is because of the development of McBride. So you got to hope that, like, if they can keep that ball rolling, they really have done a nice job with that. Keep that rolling. Kolek, Dottier, Najee, who they got today from the Hornets, a project. But Mitchell Robinson, if you remember when he was a rookie, Mitch was committing like 5 fouls every 10 minutes. He was blocking everything because he was trying to block everything. But especially if you look at Mitch's career and you look at his fouls year by year, every single season, to where now, like, when's the last time you heard about foul trouble being an issue for Mitchell? It's been years.
No.
It took Kurt Thomas like 10 years to figure out how to stay out of foul trouble. It took Mitchell Robinson like 3 years. So I think you have every reason to be excited about Dottier, Najee, Kolek, any of them.
I'm excited about the team. I like the team. The team is going to be good for years to come, not just the next 3-4 years. I can see a run like the Ewing years, 10 years, 12 years.
I hope that would be nice. Would be real nice.
But that's the only difference is we hope we get 1 or 2 rings in that process.
I'll take that.
That's we got to break that curse. We got to break that curse.
This team has this Knick organization right now has already done a better job than any of the Ewing teams did putting talent around him. They did a really nice job of, like, they signed John Starks when nobody knew who he was. They signed Mason when nobody knew who Mason was. But it was always Ewing. Like, everybody needs to understand, because Ewing gets a lot of crap for, like, how do you know? The only reason this team from 1973 till now was ever anything is because Patrick Ewing single-handedly was that good. And made them like he made them that good. But I write about it all the time. Like Ewing never had a player like even Towns. He never. You look at Patrick Ewing's career. Patrick Ewing's second best Knicks teammate probably all time is like Starks or Oakley. Like probably those two. By the time you got Houston and Sprewell, it was the end of the road. So like Brunson already has had Randle, Towns, Bridges, OG. DiVicenzo was in some ways similar to Starks. And remember, DiVicenzo was like a really nice player. But if DiVicenzo was the second best player on the Knicks, you would not take this team seriously as a contender.
No.
And that's what Ewing was always dealing with.
Yeah.
So it's already a good time just to I keep trying to remember. I don't think since probably 95, Riley's last year, after they had made the finals, I think that was the last time that I felt this sane, thinking, yeah, the Knicks could. Like, I don't think they're favorites. I think Boston is still ahead of them. But when is the last time you could realistically say, I think the Knicks can get to the finals and not get laughed at?
Actually, I thought you may not agree with that. I felt the 96-97 team was that team.
The only reason I think I consider them, I go back and forth with them. The only reason I didn't take them was the Bulls had just won 72 games and a title. And all the guys that the Knicks brought in had no experience. Like Allen Houston had never been to the playoffs. Chris Childs had never been to the playoffs. Larry Johnson was not grandmama anymore. And he had never gotten past the second round. Like no one they brought in had ever won a best of 7 series. And now you're going to take down the 72. Like, and part of the reason PJ Brown hurt so much is like they played them tough that year, and that would have been a hell of a series to see. Like, let's see Michael Jordan have to play both ends. Let's see, like, the guy who gave LJ trouble, who gave Pippen trouble was X-Man, because X-Man would back him down and get physical with him, and LJ, same thing. So that would have been interesting. I think it's a fair argument. To me, I went into that season thinking like they can be really good, but because of the presence of Chicago, there was never a point that year where I thought, yeah, they're gonna, like, I was hoping they could, stand up to Chicago, but like, I feel better about this team than I did about 97.
Okay, fair enough.
Because also, but I think that's a difference. Bridges has been to the finals. Brunson's been to the conference finals. OG's won a title. He was hurt in the playoffs, but he's won a title. Who's the other one?
Towns been to conference finals.
Yeah, like a lot of these guys have played at just about the highest level. So I feel now. Let me ask you this question, because this does not get talked about at all, and I think it's a testament to what a great job he's done as a coach, and I think how much he has shown more flexibility than people thought he had. But Thibodeau comes into this year with a contract extension and the first real, I would say, high expectations of his time as a Knicks coach. All the other years, like if they were good, hey, this is great. This is really cool. But now it's, okay, show me 60 and a chip. What are your feelings on I'm not quite sure where you stand on Tom Thibodeau. Where are your feelings as far as, because I think there's players who can get you to a certain level, but not to a title. Like Carlos Boozer was a good player. Carlos Boozer's not going to get you to a title. He might get you to the second round. Yeah. I think there's coaches like that too. Do you think Tom Thibodeau is the coach that this team can win a title with, or are you still not sure about him at this point?
He needs to not get in his own way.
What do you mean by that?
His stubbornness.
Okay.
He needs to be even more flexible. Because I felt if he was more flexible last season, despite all the injuries, they're facing Boston in the conference finals.
You wanted Alec Burks in there much earlier than he got in.
Alec Burks should have been in the first round.
You were saying that. I remember you talking about that.
Should have been the first round. Because you just bring a veteran dynamic to it. You wouldn't have to use Josh Hart as much. Josh Hart got hurt over usage.
Yep. Yeah.
Jalenbrunson got hurt over usage. You got to give these guys a break. If you don't give these guys a break, they're going to break down in the playoffs. Now, Mitchell Robinson is injured through the playoffs last season because of a cheap shot by Embiid.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? He's out till December because of that same cheap shot.
And I just want to say this because what you just said, somehow it says what I've been thinking but not able to say.
Mm-hmm.
Embiid would never pull that on Randle.
No.
He would pull that on Towns.
But Towns will face him up too.
He will. And to me, that both of those things say something. The fact that Embiid would try it with Towns but not Randle, to me, says something about Randle that I like.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that, this will be a fun thing to watch this year, Towns and Embiid hate each other. They've had beef for years. They've gone, like, they do not like each other. So that's going to add another layer to what's already going to be a crazy Knicks-Sixer rivalry, which is great because in my lifetime, we've never had that. And I wrote a piece about it. Really, they've been around both of those franchises forever. Mm-hmm. They've really never had a rivalry. And you saw last year, like, well, in any sport, when it's New York and Philly, that's hot. So I think it says something that, like you're saying, like he will do that to Towns. But I do believe also, like, Towns is a Dominican from New Jersey. Like, you're not going to pull that and not get, you're going to get something.
Yeah. You
may not get, Randle had a little bit of Willis Reed thing to him where, like, you don't go there. You're not starting that because you're not finishing that.
Right.
You started with Towns because you might finish it with Towns, but Towns will make you feel it. But I think Randle would kill you.
Listen, this season, new NBA season, I have my Game Time app. When the Knicks go to Philadelphia,
MSG West.
Yep. I may go down. I may get me a ticket down to Philadelphia and take that Amtrak or the New Jersey train down to Philly to go watch that game.
I got a guy every year. He offers me a ticket to one game, and we were gonna see OKC when Hartenstein came back.
Mm-hmm.
And then once this trade happened, I'm like, you got to try it. He splits tickets with like a couple of the guys, and like, so he's like, it's gonna be hard. But I'm like, try to get that Minnesota game. If I can be at the Garden when Randle returns in January, I may never leave that building. That would be nice, man.
That's gonna be a hot ticket. I'm hoping to get at least give me a 200 section. So I'm scared of heights. I'll be happy.
Mr. Dolan, think about your fans, sir.
Listen. We got to find a way to either get a press pass or get in there. I don't care. We got to do something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No, for real. The last time I went to a game, I went 2 years ago. And it was a game. It was quickly at a career high. He scored like 40-something against Houston. Great game. Obi had like 3 dunks. I had not been to a Knicks game in about like 30 years. And my guy, he got his tickets, and then he couldn't make it. So I was gonna be there alone. So I decided I live in Rochester, so I took a train down, getting ready to see the Garden. I'm like, what? I want to take this edible, and I'm gonna go to this game because I want to enjoy this like an adult, enjoy it. So I do my thing, and I'm not a rookie, Dom. Like I know my way around the green, but like, so I get to the Garden, then I'm like, what? I'm like, it's legal. I'll vape a little before I go into the Garden. So I get inside, and my guy's got nice tickets. Like my guy is like down where I'm like, I can see Dolan. I'm not on the floor, but I'm the first seats above the floor. So it's like you're down. And Dom, I was hungry because that Ed was kicking in. And I turned, and it looked like the pyramid. Like the idea that I was going to walk up those steps. It was not. I would never have made it. I sat in that chair down. I had a good time, but I had a very localized good time. I did not move. So it was time to go.
Oh, now I know. Now you know how I feel when we up at the 400 section.
Exactly.
I was up there. I sat up there, and the Knicks was bad. The Isaiah years.
Yeah.
It was a $10 ticket all the way up to the 400 section. At the time, it was 400. That was the 300 section because of the renovations and the
right.
all that shit.
Right. The tunnel and shit, or what do they call it? That path that they got.
Yeah. I think sitting up there was not bad. Actually, it was not bad.
It's a good place to see a game.
You see everything.
Yep.
I guess us as kids going to Nats Coliseum traumatized me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure did. Because you've ever seen, you sit in the nosebleed section in the barn. You're looking down, looking straight down.
Yeah.
You'd be like,
oh
shit, are we really this high? I would not get up out my seat. I remember we went to the circus, man.
I remember seeing the circus at the Coliseum. Yep.
We used to go there, and it was just been up all high in the section. I'm like, oh God, this is high.
Yep. That's the same thing I was thinking when I was at MSG. I said, damn, this is high. This is too high.
Man, listen, I would love to go to a game with you, man. Me and Joey G, get him up from Georgia. Go there, and then after that, go to a strip club, get a couple of drinks and lap dances, and call it night. Listen.
They're going to have 41 regular season games, and they should be in the playoffs for a little while. We might get a shot.
That's
now,
right.
Let me close. I thought about this a little while ago, and I wanted to ask you this before I go. I want to give you 4 Knicks, and I want you to tell me if I got a Royal Rumble with the 4 of these guys. Who's coming out on top? Because these are, I would say, the four Knicks I've seen in my life that were the strongest. I would say Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason, and Xavier McDaniel. 4 of those guys go into a dark steel cage. Only one comes out.
I'm going to say Mace.
Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong saying Mace. Tell me why you say Mace.
He's low-key the toughest one out of the whole group. Low-key. The proverbial favorite, everyone was going to go with Oak, of course.
And Oak's got a body count. Oak literally was slapping NBA players, over gambling debts and walking away untouched. Like that's not by accident. This man was Michael Jordan's bodyguard.
Yeah,
first
sure
year
was.
in the league. Like, and I remember once Oakley and Ewing collided. Like they didn't see each other. It was full head-on collision. Ewing left the game. Oakley did not. Like Oakley and Patrick Ewing, a big strong man.
Yeah.
But Charles Oakley was something else. But can't go wrong with Mace.
Can't go wrong with Mace. No, listen. X-Men at the last one will be Ewing, of course. X-Men ain't nothing to play with either.
I encourage anyone who hasn't seen it, if you go on YouTube and you can see X-Men fighting Charles Oakley.
Oh yeah.
When he was in Seattle. X-Men, there's the famous Michael Jordan, drawing clip from '92. X-Men was my favorite Knick ever. He was only there for a year. And he was, to me, pound for pound the toughest because Ewing was 240, Oakley was like 245, Mace was 250, X was like 210, 205. But pound for pound, like X's first day, Chris Herring wrote about this in his book, Blood in the Garden. First day of training camp under Pat Riley, X and Mason, within 2 minutes, they're fighting. I cannot tell you what I would pay to see Xavier McDaniel fighting Anthony Mason in their primes. Like, wow, that's like, if you're a Knick fan, that's like Ali Frazier. Like, I cannot imagine. You can't go wrong with X-Men either. You can't go wrong with any of them.
Ewing, I'm not saying Ewing was soft. He's tough.
Not at all. Tough. Ewing was mad tough. But Mason, there's a guy now he's on the Pacers now. His name is James, I think, is it James Jones? He's the martial arts dude. He's the guy in the NBA. He's like, he comes from like a martial arts background. He's literally been in like James Johnson, I think is his name.
Okay.
Every year when they do the poll of NBA players, like who's the one, nobody fights this guy. Whenever there's beef, like it's hilarious to watch. He comes out there and he's like Bruce Lee. Like people just clear out. Doesn't matter how big you are. Doesn't matter how strong you are. Doesn't matter what fight. No one goes near this guy. And every year they poll the players. Who's the one guy you wouldn't want to fight? This guy wins by a mile. Mason was, Oakley would go at people, and sometimes they would come back at Oakley. Big boys. Oakley picked on big boys. That's why I respected him. Kevin Garnett picked on people shorter than him. Oakley, Rick Mahorn, you want some? Come get some. Like Davis boys, you want some? Come get some. Patrick Ewing would get in beefs with people, big dudes also, and they would come back at Ewing sometimes.
He took out Lambert. He capped.
He had it with a number of people. I don't have a lot of memories of a lot of people going at Anthony Mason.
The hell no.
And Anthony Mason was looking for it.
Yeah,
and
he was.
still, he wasn't. You just didn't see people bring it to him. You know, the one time, the one that I remember, I always, and you can find this. It's hard, but you can find a clip of it. The Saturday afternoon game, or maybe it was a weekday afternoon. Knicks were playing the Sixers. Manute Bol was on the Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
Mason was getting under Manute Bol's skin, and at some point, the shot went up.
Mm-hmm.
Oak gets the rebound. You hear a whistle. Marv Albert's calling the game. And this is funny because Marv Albert, if you remember, used to call boxing matches all the time, too.
Yeah, he did.
So all of a sudden, Marv Albert goes from calling the action to he's like, and Mason and Bowles square off. And like, you literally see, and I think you record this. I want people to see this. Literally, like Manute Bol, who's like 8 feet tall, is like cocking back with this. He looks like he has a spear for an arm. And Mason literally is taunting. Mason's going like this. It's kind of like taunting him. And Bol takes a swing and he misses. And I remember everyone in the Oscar De La Hoya was there that day, or some boxer was there. They were all like, Al Troutwig interviewed the guy, and the guy was like, I think Manute is lucky that Mason, was taking it easy today, because Anthony Mason would have snapped Manute Bol in half.
But he sure would have. He sure would have.
I loved Manute, but that's where I was like, Manute, I know you killed a lion when you were 15.
Yeah.
But a lion is not Anthony Mason.
Nah, not at all. Not at all. And Matt, before I let you go, my man, we want to send a big condolences out to Georgetown Hoya. In my opinion, this man belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Former Nick.
His name is Dikembe.
I believe he is. Yep, go ahead.
Dikembe Mopolondo Jean-Jacques Mutombo.
Yep. He is in the Hall of Fame.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
He's in the yep.
I never seen a shot blocker change the magnitude of an all-star game when he stepped on the court the way he did. In that big 2001 all-star game? That big comeback?
Because right after that, the Sixers traded for him because they got to the finals and they wanted him against Shaq.
Mm-hmm. This guy led the comeback that was led by Stephon Marbury and Allen
Iverson. Yep. Former Nick and Net Mutombo.
Mm-hmm.
The famous one of the most famous playoff moments when he grabs the last rebound against Seattle when Denver upsets them and he falls to the ground and he's just like so happy. I will tell you a story. I have not told the story yet because I'm like, this doesn't belong on social media, but I'm going to tell you the story. Mm-hmm. Just Mutombo has this, just everyone who will tell you about him will say it's just bright, warm, personality. So I had a friend around 2003 when Mutombo he might have been a Net at that point. I can't remember. He might have been a Net. It was around 03. Mm-hmm. My friend was at a strip club somewhere it was either Atlanta or New York. Can't remember which one. He was at a strip club somewhere.
Okay.
He says like 2 a.m, 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
This entourage just comes into the room. A bunch of dudes come in and finally they all get in and clear out. The last guy to come in is Dikembe Mutombo. Mm-hmm. And Mutombo walks in and he puts his arms all the way out. Mm-hmm. And in that Cookie Monster voice of his, to the whole club, he yells out, "Who wants to sex up Mutombo?" And like that's when that's a Mutombo story, that's like a charming, funny story.
He was charmingly funny. Charming, yes.
I did not know. I just read this today. I didn't know this. David Stern met with him to get him to. Stern wanted him to stop doing the finger wave, at players' faces, and I forgot that. Like Mutombo was like, "Yeah, I can stop doing that." So he started just waving it in the air instead of waving it at the player.
There hasn't been a center where guards got past him and he still blocked the shot from behind.
Yeah, he did that playground thing where you would let a little kid get past, but he's doing it in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go ahead, I got you. Boom. Remarkable. Also, you mentioned Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've seen a pair like that. When Mutombo was at Georgetown, so was Alonzo Mourning, and I mean I can't think of a big man pairing at the college level that's been at that level since then.
Was Stanley Robertson Shaq before them, or at the same time?
Shaq came out the same year as Mourning. I think Stanley Roberts, I think, was the year Mutombo came, and I think Shaq and Zoe were the year after. Yeah, you're right. Shaq and Stanley Roberts were up there too.
Mm-hmm.
There was something cool about. There was something still cool about John Thompson, and this was like Ewing's Ewing was their mentor. You know, it was nice to see also at that time in the 90s that the NBA was very much about marketing. You know, a typical, the Knicks are playing the Bulls, and Ewing and Jordan, they probably hate each other. Like Ewing, Mutombo, Ewing, Mourning, like they competed as hard as you could against each other, but there was no question watching them that like these men cared about each other and their personal relationship. I think working with John Thompson probably helped them develop this awareness. Like that relationship meant more than what you owe the owner who's paying you money right now because you're young and healthy and turning them a profit. Like they were a very, I think for me, early demonstration in the sport of guys who got it and guys who were like, I'm here to get paid, but I'm not here to tell you my soul, like to do it. There's things that matter more than this. And they all became very high ranking members in the union. Very accomplished, like on and off the court. Mutombo famously and astonishingly built just hospital after hospital after hospital throughout Africa. Like this was a person who was given a lot and then used it to give to like a lot of other people. Like he was just really like kind of a universally beloved guy.
Definitely, man. Definitely. I have to mention that. Like I said, rest in peace to Dikembe Mutombo. Condolences to the family. There's a lot of big deaths that happened this week.
Yep.
James Earl Jones.
Yes. John Amos.
John Amos.
Yep.
And anybody who watched Days of Our Lives, Drake Hogestyn, John Black.
Did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, he passed away this week. Tough week.
On the plus side, we also lost Pete Rose. So there was a win.
Yes.
We got rid of Pete Rose. So I'm going to take that as a win.
Oh, wow.
Well, sorry, did I say that on the air? I'm sorry, everybody.
Wow. All due respect to the family of Pete Rose. No. Pete Rose deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, period. But what he did again,
anytime you want against Pete Rose being in the Hall of Fame, but I will say to you right now that like I will also spend an hour defending me insulting Pete Rose beyond the grave because there's a few people in life that deserve it. I got stories. My father got stories.
Wow.
Yeah, my father, he grew up in the city. He played baseball. He played basketball. Like he met everybody. He met Roy Campanella. He met Yankees. He met Jets. He met Knicks. Only player who was ever a total just dick to Pete Rose to this day.
Wow.
He'll tell you like not just there's athletes who aren't interested in talking to you or signing an autograph, and then there's a guy who like just goes out of his way to be an asshole and like to try to stop other guys from signing an autograph like that. Like and I don't want to talk too much about Pete Rose today. We will focus on the positives.
Yes. Yeah. But as always, it's always been a pleasure. Always a pleasure having you on the show. We did an impromptu training camp preview episode. Hopefully, I'll have Mets soon again. Celebrating the Mets going to the National League Divisional Series against the Phillies. We still got how many innings we got left? 4 more innings? 3 more innings?
Oh, I think that if the Mets win, I think they're going to get the Dodgers because I think the Dodgers are the 1 seed, and the Mets would be 6.
Okay.
I believe the Mets are 6. The Brewers are 3, and I think the lowest seed, one plays the lowest seed. Like the Yankees are playing the Royals. Wait a minute, no. The Yankees are playing the Royals, and the Tigers are playing the Guardians. And weren't the Tigers the lowest seed?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, they had to be. Yes, the Orioles and the Royals, the 2. So maybe you're right. I totally take that back. Maybe the Knicks will. Maybe the Mets will play the Phillies. Who would you rather? Just real quick. Who would you rather play? Phillies or Dodgers?
Wow, they're both great. They're both great teams. And I don't like the fact that I think the weaker pitching staff is the Dodgers.
Especially, yeah.
Because of the injuries. You're gonna face Zach Wheeler, who's gonna have a chip on his shoulder against the Mets, who's pitching more for ace than Matt Harvey ever did. Over they said no Syndergaard ever did.
I loved Wheeler the most, and it's funny to me that, like, other than DeGrom, with the asterisk of all his injuries, other than that, Wheeler's easily been the best, and maybe overall has been the best because he's been much healthier than DeGrom.
Yeah. The problem with Zach Wheeler was his control issues, walking guys. He grew out of it, and you see the product of you got on the field with him pitching.
And I believe he is one of the last examples of the Wilpons fucking things up, because I remember what hurt about Wheeler was he got to be really good. He was the piece that got in the trade
Carlos
for
Beltran,
San Francisco.
Beltran.
And you got what you're supposed to get. You got a young pitching stud who turned out to be a great front of, so they didn't sign him because he would have cost money. Well, why are you trading for a pitching prospect that if he works out, you're not going to pay him? So that always hurt. So he was one of the last, like, those stupid Wilpon things where, like, it would never happen today. I respect the Phillies a bit more. I don't know why, but I find them a bit, maybe because the Mets play them more, but I find the Phillies to be like a gritty, like they're talented and they're gritty. This isn't fair, maybe, but I think of the Dodgers as like talented. I think of them as a stereotypical, like, old LA team, like glittery and talented, but like I don't feel like they have the heart that like an East Coast team has, which is ridiculous, but it's how I feel.
And the Ohtani mania, which he's gonna get MVP because he did 50 and 50. First player that would do it.
Yep.
Yeah. I think the MVP should go to Lindor, but that's not me being a Met fan. It's me being a baseball fan and a guy who played baseball.
Especially if you consider what Lindor did down the stretch for a team that literally needed every single win to get in, and he did it.
Right.
50-50 is 50-50. Like, I'm not going to pretend to. That's not just another year.
Right.
But I do feel like you more so that if this isn't Ohtani's fault, and like there's Ohtani winning, I have no problem with, but literally the last at bat of the season, and this is not accept. This is what Lindor did all year, but like literally to the ninth inning down in a place that's been hell for this team for almost 30 years. And that was killing me in the bottom of the eighth, because I had told everyone I knew the last week, this Met team is different. They're not the best Met team I've ever seen, but there are better Met teams. Like 2 years ago, I did not like that team's chances going into Atlanta, and you saw what happened. And in the 90s, they had some really good teams. They couldn't get past Atlanta. This team, I was like, I know they can beat Atlanta. So when they blew it in the eighth, I was so angry because I'm like, oh my God. Like, I've seen them. I know what they are. And then he comes up, regular season-wise, biggest home run in Met history. Regular season-wise, unless you want to say Piazza 9/11 for different reasons. But other than that, and like really Ray Knight in the World Series, that's about it. That counts for something.
Absolutely. He had his big Mets moment.
He did. He really did. As I was talking to my father about, we both hope, like, all the racists that were sending the Lindors, the hate mail and the death threats earlier in the season. I really hope that I hope those people are. Well, I'm sure they're not learning anything, but to me that's also impressive. Like Ohtani's. I don't know these people's lives, but when the year started, the big story with Ohtani is like, oh, his interpreter is in trouble for gambling, and was it Ohtani's debts? And with Lindor, the big thing was like he's getting death threats because he's not hitting well, and to respond the way he did is he was terrible for like 2 months. He's the consensus number 2 at least MVP that's remarkable. And as a position player, you start. We'll see how this season ends. But when you start having the conversation of all-time Met position players' greatness, okay, you got to talk Beltran. You got to talk Wright. I guess you could talk Reyes. You got to talk Lindor. And like you said last time, like he's past Reyes.
Yeah.
So
tough. One out now. Man on third. Manai got to get a strikeout. Gotta get a strikeout.
5 seconds ahead of me. It's been very surreal.
Oh, got you.
Does it ever bother you that even though it's spelled differently, his name is Manaya? Because every time I talk about him, I know the other person gets it, but I'm gonna be like, it's not Omar.
It's not Omar. It's not
Sean.
Omar.
Yeah.
It was quiet as kept. It's probably the second best general manager in Mets history right now.
He's up there.
Quiet as kept.
He's up there.
Behind Cashin.
Frank Cashin's up there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who was the GM in the 60s teams when they're 69, 73, but there have not been many.
No.
I mean, I did it for a while and came back and did it again and did well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, sack fly 3-2 Mets.
Okay.
You know, now guys, people who are still watching the podcast, we have turned to a watch party: Mets versus Brewers. So if you guys want to come join the podcast, the link is in the comment section. Chime in. It's become a watch party now, guys.
I gotta start stressing now.
Yeah. I just wish Alonso was hitting the ball the way he was hitting 2 years ago.
Did you see the first inning when he hit that grounder? I guess he tripped coming out of the box or something.
Tripped on the box, cost us a run.
He has that thing where Oakley used to have this too. Like Alonso's a wonderful, wonderful player, but like when something goes wrong, it looks really bad with him.
Yeah.
Like there's just something about him.
His biggest mistake is signing Boris as an agent. That was his biggest mistake.
I was very struck, and I'm curious about this for him next year. How one of Boris had 4 guys last year at the end who weren't signed very late into spring training, and one of them fired him. I think that was Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
One of them just got a big deal. Chapman just got a nice big deal from San Francisco. Right after Montgomery blasted him, coincidentally, Blake Snell came out with all these very nice things to say about Boris.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm Alonso, you got an agent who's kind of famous for taking people really, really, really late, and it doesn't always end well. And I feel like, especially 30-year-old slugging first basemen who are not athletic and are not incredible defensive players. If I'm Pete, I'm gonna take the money that someone offers me, and I'm just gonna take it. I hope he does not price himself out of the Mets, and then March rolls around and he's not signed with a team yet because Boris is insisting he should get whatever money and he's not going to get it.
You know what I want to say about him? He should take that $158 million. Should have took it.
Who, Pete?
He should have took that money.
I can't imagine that not being enough. If I'm somewhere that I like, I can't imagine being like, nah, I don't need 158. I need 180. If you like where you are, the fans love you. If you stay here, they're going to be the all-time home run hitter in Mets history. You're going to retire as a beloved, and you're going to get a little extra money to go to the Cubs?
Think about this, man. As you know, when you play in New York and you succeed in New York, right?
Yeah.
The endorsement deals is you're going to make more money than going to Texas like DeGrom did.
That's one reason Brunson taking that discount is great for the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
Get ready to see more Jalenbrunson commercials than you've ever seen in your life.
Exactly.
Because he's going to get that money back.
Exactly. And Mikal Bridges is already plotting to do the same thing.
Yep, he's going to make it too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Randle was starting to do that, right? But Randle was starting to show up and be doing a lot more things. People are going to see if you're good in New York, if you're good and your team is good,
mm-hmm.
you're going to make that money.
Absolutely.
But I'm not sure that let's see how it ends with Pete, because all it takes is 2 home runs in a series and all of a sudden you very much have changed the story around you.
I truly believe it, and I believe Uncle Steve is if he's what he says he is, he's going to go after. He signs Pete, he's going to go after Soto, and then you're going to have your 1-2 punch in the middle of that lineup.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking on my show, the episode that I did with you on Jacobin. I also had Joe Flynn on, who's covered the Yankees before for Pinstripe Alley. He's a big Yankee fan.
Mm-hmm.
It still astonishes me, but like I asked him, I'm like, can you honestly see Steinbrenner somehow losing Soto to the Mets? And like, yeah, he can. Like, and he made a good analogy. He said, like, I said, George never would have let this happen. And I said, even Hank Steinbrenner never would have let this happen. He said, yeah, but how is Fredo?
Yeah.
You know, how's not Michael? How's not Sonny? How's Fredo? How wants to be comfortable and make money, and he has. But can you imagine, like, because the Yankees are not going to outbid Cohen. Whatever Soto gets, it will be if Soto resigns with the Yankees, it will be because he wants to stay there. It will not be because it's the most money.
Excuse me.
Can you imagine? Juan Soto's still only 26. You imagine the Mets getting that guy after they see the year he just turned into Lou Gehrig, and the Yankees going to lose him, and they really might.
You know what it is too. When you say George would not let it happen, but George never had an owner on the outside of the field with that deep pockets than Steve Cohen. No, Doubleday was the big money guy. Let's be real.
The one who would open the wallet. Yes.
Doubleday was the big money guy.
Pushed for the Piazza deal. Wilpon didn't want to do it. Yeah, Doubleday. It was Doubleday.
Doubleday won the A-Rod too.
Nobody's perfect.
How did A-Rod get those tickets to that World Series, the Subway Series? It was Doubleday. They got up the tickets.
Yeah. Sometimes the Lord blesses us with what He doesn't give us.
Yes. Just imagine what the world could be. We get A-Rod, Jose plays second base.
I try to imagine A-Rod coming to the Mets, and then 2 years later, the drug charges come out. Just the nightmare that the Wilpons trying to like navigate that public relations. That would have been hell. That would have made the Isaiah Knicks look like a well-run machine.
Oh yeah. Isaiah did draft some good draft picks though. I'm not gonna lie to you for the Knicks. Bad trades, but some draft picks he did pick very well. Trevor Reza, David Lee, Nate Robinson, two of those guys end up being key cogs to championship teams.
Yes.
Later on. So
yeah, I was just writing about actually David Lee earlier today for a Knicks piece, and he really was like just every year he added something. Every year he would add something to his game, and at a time when like almost every single Knick was a major disappointment in some way. Like this is the Eddie Curry Knicks, the Jerome James Knicks, the first Jared Jeffries Knicks, Steve Francis, Quintel Woods. Like this was a rough. But David Lee, like every year, he would shoot better, he would rebound better, he would pass better, he would play more minutes.
Exactly.
You know, he was and the irony was, to get Stoudemire, they traded Lee to Golden State. And Stoudemire made one All-Star game with the Knicks, and then they got Melo and his knees were never the same. David Lee made one with the Warriors, and was a good starter on a good team. And then it was his injury that opened the door for Draymond to start. And that's when Golden State became the dynasty. So in a way, the Knicks helped develop the greatest dynasty that we have seen in 20, 30 years.
True. The Knicks didn't draft Steph Curry.
They didn't get to. They did not get to. But remember, again, as bad as it is for you, that was the year that Minnesota needed a point guard. And Steph Curry, Minnesota had the 5th pick and the 6th pick. They needed a point guard. They took 2 point guards. Neither one was Steph Curry.
Nope.
They took Johnny Flynn from Syracuse, and they took Ricky Rubio. And do you remember who the Knicks got when they couldn't get Steph Curry? Do you remember the consolation prize?
It wasn't Sweetney, right? Was it Sweetney or what?
No, Sweetney was a little earlier.
Oh shoot!
Big man. He was a forward, like a power forward / center. Played for the Lakers. He played for the Rockets eventually.
Jordan Hill.
Yep. That was the consolation prize for not getting Steph Curry.
Yeah. Remember, we traded McCamby and that pick. We could have Nene and Camby.
The Nene pick. Yep. The Nene pick.
Oh, Let's talk about the draft pick that caused Jeff Van Gundy to quit the team after 19 games. Frederick Weiss instead of run out test.
That was a rough one. That has always been a rough one.
The Meta World Peace, whatever he calls himself now. He's for me.
Now it's it's Meta. Oh, it's Meta something Artest. I think it's Wait. I'm gonna find this for you because I used to know this. I was just writing about him. It is Meta Sandiford Artest is what he's now known as.
Okay.
I remember that hurt because I loved St. John's and I loved him at St. John. There was a very good article that someone on ESPN wrote last year, a long feature about Frederick Weiss, and I didn't know about his life. He was aware overseas of how much of a punchline he had become to Knicks fans, despite never actually nobody saw him play. Through no fault of his own, he became a villain. And he got anxious about that. He didn't want to come over to the NBA. He ended up, struggling with alcoholism for years. And is now she's like the John Madden of French basketball. He's like this beloved announcer, analyst. Has made this whole new life. He's seems happier. Has put a lot of good things together. Glad to know that for him. But the name always, if you tell me Charles Smith, I shrink up a little bit. I don't hate Charles Smith, but when you hear that name, you think of a certain experience, and it hurts. And Frederick Weiss is the same thing.
Sorry, man. I'm just looking at something here. I'm sorry about that.
Good. I'm watching the door. Get ready to hit. I'm all good.
Got you.
You imagine they get Soto, Alonso, Vientos, Alvarez, Lindor. What a lineup that would be.
Let me tell you something.
Nimmo's your sixth hitter. That'd be crazy.
That is crazy. Well, Lindor gonna be the
Something's going on.
Yeah, something's going on, definitely.
I think the pitcher. Something's going on here. The Brewers manager looks unhappy. Lindor looks unhappy. Oh, they're walking Lindor. I don't know why this requires 8 umpires.
That's right.
But he wants to walk Lindor, and for some reason, maybe he missed the window to do it. Oh, they went back and forth. They were going to walk him, and then they decided not to walk him, and now they're walking him. Which your pitcher right now has to have so much confidence, knowing that you keep going back and forth on whether he can pitch to this guy or not. Got a big spot here. Base is loaded. Nice spot for a single. Whoa.
And here comes the crowd.
Oh shoot. Who's that? Iglesias?
Yes. Yeah.
Damn.
All right.
Damn.
All right.
Okay.
Big spot. Getting into their bullpen. That's something. All right. I gotta go get in my superstitious chair.
Got you.
And from the seventh on, I gotta sit in my blue chair.
Otherwise,
if they lose, I take it very personally. So
we're gonna end the watch party right here. Then that's what's up, man.
I'm gonna watch. I'm just gonna move my ass about 10 feet over.
Got you.
But as always, Dom, pleasure to be on.
Pleasure.
Look
Pleasure
forward to
having you.
talking more Knicks and hopefully more Mets also soon.
Definitely. Thanks for being on the show. Once again, you catch the show on YouTube at True Players Podcast. Also on Patreon /True Players Podcast. Definitely catch my episode with Matthew on the Jacobin Sports Show on Spotify. Search Jacobin Sports Show. This is the most recent episode on posted. We're going to talk about my thoughts on the lack of African American ball players in the MLB. So on that note, see man Big Don, we sign off. Me and Matt going to be in our respective superstitious areas and hope for a Mets win.
That's right.
We go sign off. Peace.
Peace, everybody.